Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Savoury Knits YouTube channel. My name is Sally. I am the owner and maker behind Savoury Knits, an Australian online yarn and fibre store specialising in Australian grown and made products. I can't believe we have so many new people joining today. There's been a little explosion of subscribers, so thank you. It means a lot to know that there are people from all over who are interested in what I've been working on, because I'm doing it anyway, but I really just love to showcase the Australian fibre industry. So if you're new here, welcome. I try and showcase each episode either an Australian knitting designer, sometimes crochet, or Australian products in the projects I'm using. So it might be an Australian dyer, for example, or a yarn company that I'm trying to support, and in that way just show you what we can do kind of locally. And you know, it also helps to support our local industry, which I think is really incredible. I am coming to you from Wagga Wagga, New South Wales in Australia, and the lands of the Wiradjuri people, and I'm very grateful to be able to bring this podcast to you on this very special land in incredible spring weather. So let me get into what I'm wearing, what I've been up to, because I've been a little bit obsessed with a couple of projects, some whips and some purchases actually, which were completely unintentional but super necessary because I have plans. So first things first, hay fever, much improved. So hopefully no extra noises today. I will start with what I'm wearing. So again, if you're new or you're just tuning in, after a little break, I host the Society Knits or skscrapalong every October to November as a way of using up your scrap yarn, minis, those special advent sets that you don't know what to do with, in an attempt to make something beautiful with essentially leftovers, but also to kind of get a little head start on gift knitting as well before the kind of mad December rush that we always seem to do. So that's hosted over on Instagram. It can be a whip, it can be a, you know, it doesn't have to be a new cast on, it doesn't need to be a finished object necessarily. Just use the hashtag skscrapalong to join in, and I'd love to see what you've been making. So I thought I would show, in case you haven't seen my scrappy ideas video, one of my favorite makes that I made last year for the Scrapalong. So this is the Seaglass tee by Wool and Pine Designs. I knit the size 3 and I just love it. It used about 250 grams of scraps, and what I did is I separated my scraps into kind of 2 color bundles. So I would have a kind of pink and purple, and then a like blue yellows kind of thing, and basically just made magic balls. I initially started with magic knots, but I just didn't feel like they were secure enough and they were making me very concerned. So I changed to a Russian bind, I think it's called, where you kind of weave in the ends, and I liked that so much better. I felt like it was so much more secure, and it meant that I had a decent length of string woven in that I could just easily chop off. So the weaving in the ends was quite pleasant, really, because I was just chopping the extended end. It is a circular yoke, and it has got a little bit of neck shaping at the back. There are some short rows at the back, and I knitted it on the recommended 3.5 needles. It is a 1x1 color work, which I just absolutely loved and found really addictive. And you can see the increase lines, but in real life they're far more subtle. But yeah, so you start at the neck, top down, circular yoke increase out, and you get a fair bit done before you divide for sleeves. Obviously you could go longer with the sleeves if you wanted to, but I wanted to do this as a tee. I like my t-shirts to be quite long, so mine certainly goes past kind of like the top of the hip a little bit, and yeah, I find it really comfortable, and it's just amazing that it was something that was literally just bits and pieces. So yes, I am contemplating doing another one, but I think first I want to do the Seaglass cardigan, which looks really interesting and is still that 1x1 colour work, but it definitely last year helped to reignite my love for colour work that I had to put off because I was busy doing other things for the majority of last year. So that is my Seaglass tee, which I made in the Scrapalong last year. Highly recommend, even though I know the circular yoke is not everyone's favourite fit, but I think it really works for me. So yeah. On to the finished objects then. So as I said, I've been busy, been a bit obsessed, and that's probably a gross understatement really. I mean, they're all finished objects, but they also didn't take very long, so that's why there's a lot of them. So without further ado, let me show you the scrunchies I have been making, again as part of the Scrapalong. Ta-da! So many scrunchies. So last episode I had made 3, and I have now made, I've lost count, what have got, 3, 6, now I have made 9. I've made 9. So in case you didn't see last episode, I am using the Mindful Melbourne Makers Molly scrunchie, or the mohair scrunchie. She uses mohair, but I've been using weight, like a DK equivalent weighted yarn. So sometimes that will be like a mohair scrap with a fingering weight, or it'll be a DK weight, or it'll be a 3 lace weights, like basically whatever I've got sitting in my little stash jar. And not really managing colors at all on this one. I decided to do some stripes, which I thought looked really cool, but again, you can see like there's no real intentional kind of color management happening there. And then this one was really accidental. So I was holding like a pink and a white together, and then they ran out, so then I added a purple, and look how pretty that is on the outside. You get this like gorgeous marling. It's so lovely. Anyway, so I am using a 4mm needle. I have modified the pattern a little bit compared to Kath's, who's the Mindful Melbourne maker. I'm only casting on 80 stitches, and I feel like that still gives me a good amount of scrunch. I'm using the equivalent of a DK weight, whatever takes my fancy, and not really managing the colours at all. And then I'm knitting 24 rounds, and I feel like that's quite a good depth of scrunchie. And then just doing a cute little bind off. Hopefully you can see that without it focusing on my face, but it's so pretty. And the end result is, when you've got these nice little outside details, is when you twist it, you're going to get that really pretty kind of juxtaposition of, you're going to get the purple with the pink, and like it'll just be so nice in the hair. Like, look at that. Beautiful. So yes, I have been going mad making these of all different types and colors, and look at that one. They just all kind of remind me of poppies, mainly because that's what's flowering here at the moment. So yes, 9 of those now in total. Only 3 last time I saw you, but 9 now. Love it. They use approximately 20 grams of yarn each time, whichever variation you kind of choose. And I'm just using a simple like snagless hair tie in the middle of it. I'm not using like sewing elastic or anything. I'm just using a standard hair tie. So the other really great thing is you can literally just join all the ends together, and because it folds in on itself at the end, you don't need to weave in any ends. You need to make sure things are secure, of course, but yeah, and I've even developed a little bit of a way of kind of combining the cast on tail too. So I really only have the final stitch that I just kind of sew in to make sure it's a little bit more seamless looking and secure. But highly recommend, you know, that would be a great gift knit for girls in your family, even for like a school teacher end of year gift. So yeah, I think they take me about 2 hours to make, because it's just all stockinette. There's no increases. The thing that takes the longest is the cast on and the bind off, and it's just a perfect way to use up some scraps. So great free pattern from Mindful Melbourne Maker. Thanks, Kath. So that's my first set of finished objects. My next set of finished objects none of these had been started last time. And then once I cast one on, couldn't stop. So again, this is part of the SK Scrapalong. And again, this would be a perfect either gift as an ornament, or using it as a gift tag, or just a little decoration around the house. So let me show you what's my favorite one? The Tiny Tree Socks by Savoury Knits. So this is 5 grams of fingering weight yarn, and I have made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Cute. So again, this is another free pattern, which is just perfect. It is a great opportunity, well, it's been a great opportunity for me to really think about socks, because they're kind of almost like little sock swatches. I'm using 2.25 millimeter needles and doing magic loop with my higher sharps, which I really love and would be my preferred needle kind of generally. So I wanted to get a better feel for how socks knit up on them too. And these have been really good experiments for just seeing how much the choice of yarn affects the tension. So I've consistently used the same needles, same technique, same cast on in each of them, and you can see that they're all just slightly different sizes. Like this one was a non-superwash light fingering, I would say, and look how much smaller it is compared to the others. Whereas we've got some acrylic here, we've got like standard sock yarn with nylon here, that's what the red one is here too. But anyway, it's been a really interesting little experiment for me. Great practice for like a very minimal basic heel turn as well, and you know, how do stripes look and that kind of thing. There's also instructions in it for like how to do an afterthought heel too, so you can practice those. The reason I'd put these off was I thought I would have to do Kitchener stitch for the toe, and I thought, oh, that's just for something that should be quick that I can zip through. I don't want to have to sit down and have to really remind myself how to do Kitchener stitch, but you don't have to. So I did a very minimal heel and gusset heel, and then at the toe you do the decreases, but then because there's like 8 or 6, there's very few stitches on the needle, you can then just push a needle through and gather them together, and it does the same job. And I mean, these don't have to be structurally sound, they're not going to actually be worn, so that works really nicely. So yes, I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet, but you know, for 5 grams of yarn, these are super cute. They'll be dotted around everywhere, I'm sure, if no one wants them, but really pleasurable. Lots of learning has come out of them as well, and they only take me about an hour to make, which is great. But yeah, so there's another little sort of 5 socks, and there's no second sock syndrome because there's no second sock. Yeah, anyway, great little extra pattern. So that's the Tiny Tree Socks, which is a free pattern by Savoury Knits. So after all, so I think in total that was about 200 grams of scraps that I've just shown you, which is pretty incredible. Number one, that I had those sitting around, and 2, that they're now like actual semi-useful items or things that I have ready to go to give to people. So that's pretty cool. So I think, considering we are on the sock train, I might give you an update on my Herding Hens socks by Stone Knits. So I'm pretty sure when I last showed you this, I had done the first chook and was absolutely in love with them. And now I have done 3 chooks and, oh, sorry, you can't see that part, and a heel. 3 chooks and a heel. So I'm knitting the second size and 2.25 millimeter needles. So these are my nice sharp higher highs. I am using Fred and Pepper sock yarn, as well as minis from Fred and Pepper, so the red and the yellow of the chooks, and then this is a mini from the 2024 Advent from Obsession Yarns, and I'm pretty sure this is an old one from a Louie and Lola Advent. So super cute. Love how the colors are coming out. The pattern uses a short row heel, which I don't think that I have done before, so that was good to learn. When I last filmed, I said that I was waiting on some 9-inch circulars to kind of see how my tension would change, because one of the things that's been a real struggle for me and socks is that I'm such a loose knitter, and then the socks that I make just end up too big and I don't enjoy them, and so it's been a bit of a frustrating journey because they just look like such a great thing to be able to do. So I did get some and I did practice, and I actually did the 3rd chook with them, and I think it is a lot neater, but it's shown me that I definitely do tighten up my gauge with that really short circumference, small circumference, and like the chooks actually look better than they do up the top. Like up at the top they do look a little bit loose, where I've been doing magic loop before, but even before I get to this point, the sock just really doesn't have enough stretch to get over my foot. So that's why I've parked it here for the moment, because I need to have a little think. So there's a couple of things. First of all, it's got me really thinking about sock knitting and how much, again, after those tree socks, how much the yarn really influences my gauge, particularly as a loose knitter. And so I thought I would just show you a couple of examples of how that's played out. And these are like older socks that I've made and tried to wear, but like one of them is so beautiful, but they just do not fit me and do not bring me much joy. So, I want to say that these are called the Lavender Field Socks by Curious Handmade, which are just like a beautiful little elegant design with a little picot trim. And I made it out of natural fiber arts. I think the color was like a sock yarn, and I think the color was blush, and it was beautiful. And I thought, perfect project together. Let me give myself another trial of doing some socks. And they ended up massive, and I can't remember. So I used a 2.25 millimeter needle, knit as per pattern for like the medium size, and these ended up, I mean, I actually think it was probably, you know, a superwash yarn kind of growing factor rather than plus my loose gauge. And so they just swim on me, and they're not very enjoyable to wear because they don't fit me because they're so big. So I think these ended up as like a 28 stitch gauge or something instead of a 32 or 34. Like, you know, there was a lot of growth, and I wonder how much of it was my gauge and how much of it is actually the yarn growing. But important lesson to learn about blocked versus unblocked yarns. But the other thing is, this yarn was like, it was a substantial fingering weight. You know, not like some of the other ones I've been working with recently are very much a light fingering, and this was a good, like, solid fingering. Definitely not sport, but like robust fingering, and maybe that small weight change affected things too. These are my most recent socks. So these are the Bendigo socks, again by Mindful Melbourne Maker. So these were part of the Bendigo project for 2025. And these were the first pair that I was like, yes, I can do socks. These work for my feet. The tension seemed to be pretty good. So it's a bit hard to see, but there's like a little 1x1 cable that runs down the side. I used scrap yarn. So that was I can't remember from where, but a, you know, fingering weight sock yarn. And then this was a old crazy Zower ball, and hence the like crazy colors. But it would be a light fingering, and I got a 32 stitch gauge, which was a nice density, nice tension for me, and an enjoyable sock to wear, and it really hasn't changed. And but then you can see when the contrast color kind of sits up against it, it's a bit more robust, it's a bit more like a solid fingering, and so you can notice the differences in sort of density of these two things. But so that was another one that I've done on 2.25 millimeter needle. There is a lot of time in between these two socks. They're very different bases, but you know, clearly like the yarn base that I'm using makes a huge difference. So yes, that is some thoughts that I've had. And so I think what I will do is pause for this and cast on the second one, which I think will help my momentum anyway, and actually go up a needle size for the color work, which is not something I usually ever have to do with my color work because I do Norwegian style, and I find that that just loosens the tension anyway. But I think for these it was just too tight, and I must, with that, even on magic loop, small circumference, just tighten things up too much. The floats were a little tricky to manage anyway, but anyway, I think I just need to experiment, and I won't frog this because it will give me a good understanding of how does just going up that little bit with all of the busyness of decent weighted yarn on the color work, how does that look compared to what I did before? And, you know, in the scheme of things, the reason people love socks is, you know, there's not many stitches at a time. Yes, you're using like, so this is a light fingering, you're using little yarn, but it's mindless. You could just, you know, repetition. Sure, the charts are a bit to keep an eye on, but it's fine. The other, so yeah, I'm going to park this particular sock at the moment and then start the second one. Aim to do a 2.5mm needle for the colour work and just see if that gives me a bit more stretch, and then reassess and see what I do with this. And it might be that I just have to start again, which is absolutely fine by me, because this is all about learning for me. I'm trying to get better at socks and I want to understand the why. Going back to the 9-inch circulars, so they weren't terrible, but I was watching some YouTube tutorials on the best way to hold them, because that's generally the first complaint everyone says, is that my hands hurt with how to hold them. And I have realized that I hold my knitting needles very strangely. I mean, it works. I can zoom through. I've got great tension, great consistency, so I'm not really that inclined to change it. But the way I tension my yarn is so bizarre. I don't even know if I want to show you, but so I typically knit, so for colour work I do Norwegian style, so 1 in each finger, and then for just standard stockinette I hold, and I'm an English style knitter. But I don't know at what point my brain and hands decided this, but I actually do all my tensioning with this finger rather than anywhere else. And it basically has created a bit of a problem, because I thought I was a flicker that kind of, you know, doesn't let go of the needle, but I'm not a flicker. I've been calling myself a flicker, but I am definitely not. And so I was trying to embrace that way of using the 9-inch circulars, because that's how you get a better momentum. And I just couldn't. And so then I was trying to do what I was doing, but then I'd be letting go, and it was just, anyway. So then I tried to do some continental knitting, which I think would work, but I probably just need a really mindless, like, tube scarf or something to really practice on, because my stitches were so, like, my tension was so uneven, which you would expect when you're basically learning a new skill. So I haven't given up on it. I just have come to the conclusion that I actually don't knit like everyone else, and that's a problem when you're dealing with tiny little things. So stay tuned for my adventures in sock knitting. So yeah, hopefully do another one soon. Let's get on to something that I am loving and having no qualms with, and to the point where I actually have to, like, put limits on myself to say, no more, Sally. You need to go and work on your secret test knit, because it's got a deadline, and whilst it's really enjoyable, the yarn's really fun, it's got to get done. You need to do it. And yeah, anyway, let me show you what I've been working on, which my brain has been loving. So again, part of the scrap along, I have been making a Kintra. So this is the Kintra sweater in fingering weight. The Kintra is by the Craybear, or Rebecca Clow, and it is an incredible pattern. Like, when you buy that pattern, which granted, because of the Australian dollar, is a bit expensive, you get a fingering weight and a DK weight option and incredible size range. Like, the amount of pages in that pattern, because of all the considerations and all the different variations, just even in the fingering version, and then there's the DK version, like, incredible. There is so much work in it. So I am knitting the size 3. It is a top-down circular yoke, and then I've just done the raglan shaping, and I've just, like literally one row ago, split for sleeves, so it's a bit hard to see. And the yoke is a 1x1 colour work. So I'm using Obsession Yarn's main colour that they had for their advent calendar last year in 2024 as my main colour. Then I've alternated some of their minis with Gather Make Give minis to create this 1x1 colour work beauty. It is also really fitting because I've really enjoyed seeing just so much support and celebration for the Knit for the Girls fundraiser that's been running this past week. And I have been donating, but I wasn't able to donate as a store this year, which I'll probably get into later. But I wanted to be able to kind of join in on the fun, and so working on this beautiful like pink really is going to remind me now and ongoing just what an incredible community that bands together for really important causes. So that's been really fun and really nice, and it will be a nice kind of memento later on. Anyway, back to the jumper or sweater or pullover or whatever it is that you want to call this thing that keeps you warm. So I'm doing the fingering weight size 3. I'm using the recommended needles, so a 3.5mm for the colour work. Because of the big circumference, I haven't changed now that I've gone to the body. And really interestingly, so I've just finished all the short rows, so that will just help to, you know, kind of tip the back of the neck up a little bit when it's sitting on your shoulders. And in terms of the color choices, what I did was I divided the colors into kind of 4. So I had my dark, which was the hot pink, then I had a couple of mediums that I didn't realize were as close as they were, and then I had a higher contrast light or white color. So I basically just kept alternating those reasonably randomly, so that's why they all look a little bit different. Like it's not a consistent pattern, which is absolutely fine for me. You can use an advent set for this, so you could change it every like 1 repeat. I did basically things based on 4s. Sorry about my dogs. Dogs are just alerting us that someone is trying to give us something that we ordered. Great, thank you dogs. Please be quiet. So I divided mine into 4s, but you can kind of do whatever you like. And then I just kept going until I ran out. So you can see down the bottom that I have switched to blues. And I actually think it's going to be really lovely and quite an effective little contrast down the bottom, because I still have some pinks coming through. You can see it a bit better on the back there. Maybe it's just a little rolly uppy, isn't it? There we go. But yes, I think that'll work quite nicely. I've got 2 skeins of the main colour, and I think it will be a little bit of yarn chicken. So I think what I'll do is I will knit the majority of the body, then I'll knit the sleeves, again majority of the sleeves, and then depending on how much yarn I have available, I'll either do another little panel of the 1x1 colour work on the sleeves as a like pre-cuff, or down the bottom just to kind of alternate things a little bit and to give me a bit more space, because I'm quite notorious for getting sick of things and then making them too small, and because I'm bored and I just want to get that part done. So I'm trying to slow that down a little bit. It might be that I have to go and do sleeves first and then kind of change around a little bit, but love it, highly recommend. I don't usually knit things more than once, but my brain's already thinking about could you do a DK version, because that would be really fun. Great pattern, great project. Really have to stop myself from working on it constantly. So Plans include probably getting to the collage socks eventually. Again, part of my knitting sock journey. And I'm trying not to get too excited about too many other things because I've still got my lovely old EXP that I need to, my goal is to finish that by the end of the year, or at least make substantial progress, because it's been parked for a bit. That's probably the main plans that I'm allowing myself to think about at the moment. Now, I did mention that I've got some purchases this week. So my husband and I went to the Blue Mountains recently for a wedding, and I'll put a picture here of what I made to wear. I don't know why I put so much pressure on myself to make my outfit. I think it was just more, I work really well to deadlines, and I really wanted to make the Ebba tee and skirt by Savoury Knitting. And yeah, I mean, it was good to have a deadline because it meant that it did really, really get done. So I really loved making that, loved wearing it. Of course, I told everyone about the fact that I made my outfit eventually, and we got to just go and explore some of the little towns around within the Blue Mountains, and of course I looked up if there was a yarn store. So I discovered that there was a little hideaway one called the House of Wool, which you wouldn't know about unless you actually Googled it and like found where it was. It's kind of up some stairs and in a cute little nook, but it was a lovely, very well stocked space with lots of different options for yarn. And I got a couple of things. So the first thing I'll show you is I actually got a printed out version of the Felix pullover. I have been eyeing this off for quite some time because a lot of the videos, like the tutorials I've been watching and things, a lot of them sort of highlight how lovely the Felix pullover is, and the fact that the arm shaping is actually a design feature rather than trying to be hidden away is really clever. But the main reason I decided to buy it this time is that it's a nice chunky gauge, and I thought when I next do my kind of spinning, my next big spin, I think this would be a really good option for hand spun because it'd be very forgiving sort of gauge wise. So that's why I thought that would be a really good option. So that's the Felix pullover by Savoury Knitting. And then the other thing I got, and where did I put? Oh, it's next to me. Well done. The other thing I got was some Bambini. So this is Australian superfine merino. It is spun in Italy, but it's Australian grown. And it is a 4-ply or fingering weight yarn that, did I have the colour on here? So you know, it's pretty standard, 50 grams, 200 meters. This is the colour Dusty Lilac. Isn't it pretty? And it feels beautiful and soft. I don't think it's got any nylon in it. I'm pretty sure it's just a standard soft, lovely wool. But I got 6 of these because my plan is to hold it with this Knitting for Olive silk mohair in Dusty Rose, I believe that one is called. And the goal is to make the Priscilla cardigan by Marzena Kolazchek. Marzena designs just the most beautiful, delicate items, and I've had that on the to-do list for a really long time. Initially I was going to do a sort of DK weight pink clay yarn, but I just don't think it'll give the sort of light feminine details that I am after. So yes, considering I didn't have those two together to actually look at in store, I think I did pretty well. but that will be a future me project. So that is it for me today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the comments about the 9-inch circulars as well, and I really hope you can join me with the scrap along that's still running until the end of November. Pop over to Instagram, which my Instagram handle is Savoury Knits, and show me what you've been making. Until next time, thanks for watching.